Impact detected. Brace for impact.
Danger, Will Robinson.
Welcome to your online coffee break, where we discuss bite-sized topics that inspire, educate, and entertain. Here's your host, a software innovator, award-winning marketer, and astronomy and space buff, Chuck Fields.
Hello, thanks for joining us today for your online coffee break. Today I'd like to welcome to our show my special guests, Kevin Burns and Jon Jashni, executive producers of Lost in Space, a new reboot of the classic sci-fi series that will premiere on April 13th. This Netflix original series will feature 10 episodes as it traces the story of the infamous Robinson family as they try to survive in hostile space after their ship, the Jupiter 2, was sabotaged and thrown off course. Welcome to the program, gentlemen.
Hey, thank you. Welcome to your listeners.
It's a pleasure to have both you gentlemen. Now, Kevin and Jon, I have to admit, I'm a sci-fi geek. I grew up on reruns of the original Lost in Space, and I even enjoyed the movie from 1998. I'm so excited about this reboot, and I know a lot of our listeners are too. What can we expect from the new series?
Well, this is Kevin Burns, and I think for fans of the original, I think what you can expect is a modern, gorgeous, state-of-the-art, extraordinarily well-produced, well-acted, well-crafted version of the original concept. And those people who know and remember the original Lost in Space know that the concept changed over the course of time, meaning the show changed from a serious science fiction action adventure drama where the family was very well balanced against the nefarious saboteur Dr. Smith. And then as it got into the second and third season, it became much more of a fantasy show. And we stick much closer to Irwin Allen's original intention of a science fiction, fantasy, action adventure. It's much more serious science fiction and character-driven than it is fantasy.
Oh, excellent. You know, I watched some of the original episodes recently and kind of cringed at the cheesy special effects of the 60s. The robot and special effects from the trailer and teaser look amazing. Can you describe some of the thoughts behind the redesign of the new robot?
Well, there was a lot of thought given to everything in this new version. Jon and I have been partnered on this for over 20 years. We've been friends with Sheila Allen, Irwin's widow. We've worked together as producers at 20th Century Fox, which is how we met. And this was a dream of ours to bring the Irwin Allen properties back to either the big screen or the television screen. So we've given this a lot of thought, but when it came to redesigning things, much as we love the original, we had to kind of admit that 50 years of designs had come and gone, and people now were used to seeing everything from Star Wars and Star Trek to a lot of things that didn't exist in the last 50 years. So we wanted the designs to be practical, we wanted them to be cool, we wanted them to be functional, and to kind of take the intention of the original designs and bring them up to date. And in the case of the robot, our show is set 30 years into our future, and even still, I think robots are not on a technologically advanced enough level and are not likely to be something where every family would have their own robot. And so we wanted to make it cool, like the original one was, and by that we suggested to the writers that it be an alien robot, meaning that it be a robot, but not of an Earth design, but of an alien design, so that the audience could not anticipate what its functions or limitations would be.
Or agenda.
Right.
It's Jon, by the way. Or agenda.
Yeah. In other words, we don't know what the robot is capable of, and we also don't know yet who made the robot or why. And when people watch this, they're going to see that the robot becomes a very unpredictable character, but one that functions very much like the original robot did in the original series.
You know, speaking of the robot, it's always amazed me that I was trying to think, what is the name of the robot? But I understand there's really not a proper name for the robot, is there?
Well, interesting question. They never named the robot in the original series. They just called him Robot. In Japan, they came up with the name Friday because they confused Swiss Family Robinson with Robinson Crusoe. So in Japanese translations, they called him Friday. Jonathan Harris would call him Claude, not on screen, but just offset. He would call him Claude because he had claws. And when New Line did the movie, they actually called me because we were working we were working with Sheila Allen at the time, and they said, well, we need to trademark the name of the character, and we found out it's just called Robot. Mm-hmm. They said, but there are some fans who call the robot B9. And in 2 episodes, it was referred to as Robot Model B9. And can we call it B9? And we said yes. But this robot in the new show, we don't call B9 because that would have been the Earth-based robot. So this robot still doesn't have a name. It's still Robot.
I find that so fascinating.
Robot, it may or may not be benign.
Right.
That's a good point.
B9 we always thought was a kind of a cagey play on words, like the benign robot. It's a friendly robot. Well, this robot is not, as John just said, necessarily friendly.
I am looking forward to that unpredictability. I love that. Now, I understand there's been a gender twist for the Dr. Smith character. Can you tell us more about that?
Again, this was something that John and I discussed years ago because we've been thinking about this, and we've had some false starts and some attempts at developing it. There's been interest for a number of years. Initially, when the New Line movie came out, we thought we couldn't do a remake because New Line had done that. So when John and I got the rights around 2001, 2002, our first attempt was at a reunion movie. We were going to do a sequel featuring the original cast and a new cast. And there were a lot of really, really good ideas that came out of that. It was actually going to be a TV miniseries backdoor pilot at NBC. And then Jonathan Harris passed away, literally with the script on his lap, and that broke our hearts. But a lot of the ideas that have survived into this new version, like this mothership with a series of little Jupiters on it, transporting colonists to another world, that idea came from that aborted TV movie project. So the idea of Smith being effectively a woman character was also kind of a nod to Jonathan, because we never thought that somebody should try to compete with the incredibly definitive interpretation he gave that role. So you'll notice when you see the show, there's a kind of a sly twist we've given Parker Posey's character. I can't reveal more than that, but but we wanted that character to show different things than Jonathan did by making it a female character and not a male character trying to imitate Jonathan Harris.
Sure, that's definitely a wise decision. It's so interesting. Now, it looks like the new series, I know it's very modern, it may appeal to a much wider audience than your typical sci-fi fans. Who are you hoping to reach that are outside the original series or 1998 movie audience?
Well, one thing that was exciting about this opportunity for Kevin and I is that we actually feel like this is the show that we couldn't have made any earlier in our involvement with Irwin's creation, meaning to have a platform like Netflix that can simultaneously launch this show in 200 countries worldwide with literally the push of a button, and to not have to trade off resources or to be able to use the most cutting-edge technologies to birth the show as well as to render the show. We felt like this was a true opportunity for what we call fireplace TV or tentpole TV. And the ironic thing is that where Netflix has built a company out of speaking so directly to each consumer and using analytics and recommending shows based on the viewer's past watching of other shows, the irony here is that they wanted to finally have an opportunity to recombine and reaggregate that audience. And they now see this as multi-generational viewing, a far broader palette than, as you say, normally would appeal to maybe a core sci-fi fantasy fan like the three of us seem to be on this call. And, we see the audience as being the audience for Jurassic Park, E.T., any four-quadrant tentpole pop cultural earthquake.
I mean, just to add to that, look, Irwin envisioned it. In those days, there were only 3 TV networks. And to survive on network television, you had to draw 1/3 or better of the American viewing public. You had to have, the original Lost in Space, because there was only one television set in the household, you had to draw about 45 million people in every week to watch the show. So it was never originally intended as a show for children. It was just that because it was on at 7:30, and CBS wanted to make sure children were not afraid of it, it became a more young, targeted show than it started out as. And that's why when we brought in the writers and our fellow executive producers, Burke Sharpless and Matt Sazama, and the showrunner Zach Estrin, they said to us, what episodes would you like us to look at to inspire us to go forward? And we said the first half of season 1, because that was the black and white season. It was a much more serious approach to the show, and that was what I have to believe. They really did succeed in working with, and again, fans of the original will see a lot of similarities in the story and the characters from the better episodes of the original.
Excellent. Let me ask this. I don't know if you can answer this or not, but will there be any cameos from the original TV or movie cast?
We're not at liberty, which is kind of a way of saying yes, but we can't tell you how, who, where, or what. But just know that we talk about it all the time, because John and I have worked with the original cast members for years on lots of projects. We're very close friends with them, and we've shown them the first episode. They're very, very excited and supportive. And John and I have always created a kind of a family atmosphere with all of Irwin's properties, and I think that has extended to the people creatively responsible for this new show.
Excellent. Gentlemen, are you planning on a season 2, or is it too early to tell?
Well, we hope to be able to be fortunate enough to build upon the enthusiasm that Netflix and those who have already seen what we've created with season 1 are expressing. We're definitely kicking around ideas, but that really comes down to whether people embrace the show as broadly and as passionately as we believe they will, and we hope they will.
Excellent. Now I know the new series will be released on Friday, April 13th. Any Triska decaphobics on your team that weren't comfortable about the release day, or?
We're not superstitious.
Good.
We just hope that if the audience sees what we have intended to do and believes that we've actually achieved that or even exceeded it, we'd love if they, tell all their friends and family, because it really is a great opportunity to bring multi-generational audiences back together to share this great experience.
Excellent. I know I'll be binge watching it this weekend. I know a lot of my listeners will too.
And by the way, keep in mind, all 10 episodes get dropped at 12:01 a.m. on the 13th. Literally, it's like bang. So I think the only other point that I would add is this was really crafted not as 10 one-hour episodes. It was crafted as a 10-hour movie. And it really plays as a 10-hour movie because they assumed it would be binge-watched the way a lot of these Netflix shows get watched. So people should, if they see things like, oh, I didn't know that they were going to do this, or, oh, so-and-so is fighting with so-and-so, well, you have to kind of watch the rest of it because it's one big episode. The characters all have arcs. The characters all grow from the first hour to the last hour in sometimes very surprising ways. So it's great storytelling. And as John said before, this kind of storytelling wasn't available until now. This idea of doing a 10-hour movie where you're not doing a pilot, making compromises to the pilot and then hoping it sells. We sold 10 hours at a $95 million budget. That's an extraordinary opportunity.
I think Kevin and I have said to each other, that we feel that the emotional scope here matches the visual scope. And that's why we're hoping that, audiences respond. We're certainly very happy with the show.
See, and I think they will, because, you just couldn't do that in the 1960s. Well, even 1998 for that matter. You guys have just done a wonderful job. From what I've seen, it's going to be spectacular. So I truly wish you the best of luck with Lost in Space Reboot. Thank you so much for doing that. And again, thank you so much for joining me.
All right. Thank you again.
All 10 new episodes of Lost in Space will premiere on Netflix on Friday, April 13th. Mark your calendar and let us know what you think of this series reboot by commenting at onlinecoffeebreak.com. Well, that's what we have today for your online coffee break. I truly hope you found this episode helpful and appreciate your feedback. If you know someone else who could benefit from this information, please share this episode with them or send them to onlinecoffeebreak.com. Thanks again for taking your coffee break with us today. See you next time.